It is January 21st, 2021, lesson 81 in A Course in Miracles student workbook, reviews for 63 and 64. 63 starts with, the light of the world brings peace to every mind through my forgiveness. Okay? And then the excerpt is, my forgiveness is the means by which the light of the world finds expression through me. My forgiveness is the means by which I become aware of the light of the world in me. My forgiveness is the means by which the world is healed together with myself. Let me then forgive the world that it may be healed along with me. And the mantra to repeat during the day is, let peace extend from my mind to yours. You say a name, whether it's a colleague, a friend, a stranger, loved one. I share the lights of the world with you. You say the name once again. Through my forgiveness, I can see it. I can see this as it is. Okay? Then 64 is, let me not forget my function. I would not forget my function because I would remember myself. I cannot fulfill my function if I forget it. And unless I fulfill my function, I will not experience the joy that God intended for me. Okay, and the mantra for today is that let me not use this hide my function from me. I would use this as an opportunity to fulfill my function. This may threaten my ego, but cannot change my function in any way. Okay, so we're starting to learn that as you see the world, so are you. And what you heal in you, right, you heal for the world. Okay, you want to be the change that you want to see in the world, because as you're giving wellness, right, you're wishing people well, you're wishing people to be happy, you're wishing people peace and love. That's what you're giving yourself. Because if everything is a mirror, right, if everything outside of our inner world is a mirror, then what are you feeding yourself? Every time that you have the opportunity to, give that energy out, that love of the expression of what you are, then you are opening up your awareness. Every single time that you are closing yourself or avoiding things or even judging people, that's what you're going to get in return. It makes it very difficult for us to understand how important this is, because, of course, there are going to be people that judge us, and they're going to try to hurt us, or they may treat us unfairly. And that's because we live in that tit for tat, that black and white paradigm. And when we can take the opportunity to hold that tension, hold that angst, or even suffering, if you want to call it that, to an extreme point, and see it through and be able to handle it by letting us know that we are unchanged within the inside world, then we can see how strong we are, because we can see our will to see things through, not just with our emotions, but also through life. Because how we do anything is how we do everything. And we do this sometimes, especially when we're teaching guys social skills and even human dynamics, because they're going to get rejected constantly in the world, okay? By women, even people that, they don't really accept their new personality that they're trying to project. So whatever they project, people will accept or reject. And that is chiseling you. That is basically the purification of the soul. Once you start to see how you can handle things and that no one will ever take away your experience, then you become more confident. Because now, anytime that someone is unfair, or if they're judging you, or they're doing something to harm you, you can see it for what it is. Because some people, they're so unaware that that's their lives, okay? That they live in this take, right, instead of give. You're starting to understand why people live that way, because that's the only way that they have learned to live, and that's what they know and hold to be true. Every time that you take in consideration that if you lived their lives, if you had their experiences and had their level of consciousness, then you would do the same thing. And that creates the compassion that we have for others. You forgive them for they not know what they do. because that's the balance of life. Okay, we wouldn't know what peace is if we didn't know what suffering was. Okay, we wouldn't know what negative was if we didn't know what positive was. And that's what allows us to see, okay, that's the contrast of life. It's not always negative. It's more about, this is what teaches me what are the parts that I don't want to put myself through once again. Okay, you learn to screen or digest the information a lot faster because now you're not focused on the small things anymore. Okay, you have that conscious competency where you had to exert a lot of energy to sort through all this information, but now you're coming to a point that once you see it, you avoid it because you know what that happened with that experience. And now you're becoming more mature, more aware, and with that, that allows you to make better decisions because most oftentimes as humans, we learn through mistakes, trial and error. And it's only a failing that is miserable if you don't learn from it, right? You only fall if you don't get back up. And that's all the teachings that we're trying to learn because life is ongoing. And just like Viktor Frankl said, it's not what you ask life what the meaning of it is that life is asking you what the meaning of it means. Because you're the only one that can create the meaning out of anything and see it through the attitude that you have towards life. Because if you keep thinking that things are black and white, then that's the paradigm they're going to live at. Anytime that someone is trying to make fun of you or they make things difficult for you and you allow that to affect you, then that's something that you need to work through. Okay, we're looking at the laws of mirrors, okay, the law of mirrors, where anytime that we have an opportunity to work on ourselves, we have to see how that's reflected out in the world. Okay, so the first law is, again, if you want to change something in someone, that is something that is within you. Okay, if someone says something or judges you or makes you feel a certain way where it hurts you, that's something that you need to work through yourself. If you praise or appreciate or admire something in someone, that's in you. And if somebody says something to you or judges you or tries to hurt you and it doesn't affect you, that means that's part of them. So you need to know what is inside that you need to work through and then what is not yours, because we confuse a lot of our emotions with the emotions of people. And as we start to release a lot of these preconceived notions, these thoughts and feelings, we're going to feel a lot more. Okay, we're going to be more sensitive. So that means we're going to feel people's emotions a lot more readily and at a deeper feeling, because you weren't aware of that before because you were stuck in your mind. And again, we go from thinking to thinking and feeling to being. So once we're in that feeling, right, then we're starting to create this unconscious competency where things are more second nature, autopilot. But we have to be able to discern which feelings are ours and which feelings are not. And as a highly sensitive person, or empath if you want to call it that, we have that trouble so much because we feel people's emotions so much and then we confuse it. And that's why we get depressed, because we feel that because people are attacking us, that's something of us that we have to take in consideration, whether that is true or not. But we don't even get to that point because we just adopt what the world is giving us, because we're always at this cause and effect instead of causing an effect. The way that we cause an effect is by being aware that our thoughts and our feelings, with the intentions that we have of our feelings, creates our reality. Okay, our personal reality is basically what we're putting out with our personality. And our personality, if it's been dictated by the ego, it's always going to attract, select, attrit, and manipulate the things to sustain this identity that it's always had for the longest time. But once you take back that you're not that you're not your DNA, that you're not your behaviors that you learned, that you adopted and accepted by society and the world, then you can see, okay, these are the moments that I would have reacted in this manner, and now I'm going to choose to act differently. And that space between stimulus and response is presence, okay? Your thoughts and your feelings are going to be something most oftentimes out of your control. you do have the ability to create thoughts and create emotions, just like an actor, right? Just like anybody else in the world. But so little of that is actually ours. But once we see how things are coming in, we have to take a moment to feel it and let it sink in and let it resonate with who we are, okay? Because if we're always constantly thinking of the next thing or responding immediately, we're not processing things the way that we're supposed to. When we take that moment to be present, to be aware of our thoughts, feelings, and reactions, now we can take right action. We can take conscious action, and that changes the results within our lives, because we must change ourselves now to change our result or the results that we're going to derive meaning from, because now things are working in our favor, right? Because it's happening through us, not just to us or for us, because now we're creating a new reality, new belief systems, because that's basically what it is. We're seeing the world in different lenses, and that's what creates this be the change in the world that you want to see, because it starts with how you're seeing the world, and from there, that's when you can make the decision to actually give everything that you want in return. And that's the law of reciprocity. That's the law of transference, right? Whatever you feel, the other person is going to feel. So if you're feeling fear and anxiety, that's what the other person is going to feel. And whether they know that they're receiving that information or vibration from you, they're going to just say, this is a person that I don't want to be around. And again, that creates this self-fulfilling prophecy, because although you didn't do anything, that's what you're manifesting, because that's all they're feeling. It's an instinct. It's like the mirror neurons that we have. When we were cavemen, we would have fear, and because we couldn't verbalize or communicate anything, we communicated with our facial expressions, and that would tell us what danger was. So we can feel that, we can smell that, we can intuitively sense that within our bodies some way, somehow, whether it's the body language or vibrations that we're feeling. And then we would have to make a decision, because that's where our fight or flight came from, okay? And that was an instinctual thing that developed over time, evolution. And every single time that you're meeting someone, you're going through this process of whether they're a winner, a loser, friend or foe, right? Or if they're an ally or enemy, okay? And we're always screening these things constantly. They call this what is it? Splicing, okay? So you get a picture of information, and you have to divide it, and then from your past experiences, your brain is going to say, okay, filter this out really quickly, and they do that in milliseconds. So as it's processing all these things, you're trying to make a decision, but because you're not allowing it to actually process, you're just reacting. And that's what makes things so difficult, because you're living in reaction all this time rather than coming from presence, which allows you to make better decisions. And of course, you're going to fail, right? You're going to have moments where you're just like, oh man, I kind of judged that person, or I reacted this way. And that's just all the practice, right? If you're aware, then you're basically making a promise to yourself that you're not going to do it. And then you deepen that muscle, right? It's just like reading. You're reading, and you're creating the strength within the muscle of focusing. And the more you do that, then the easier it is to process that in the future, because now you're taking in the information for what it is, for reality, and then you can make a better decision every single time that you're meeting someone, and give them the wishes of being healthy and peaceful and loving and even well within their lives.